Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
How's your weather there?
It believe it or not, it actually tiny bit snowed yesterday.
Ooh, nice.
Like just a tiny bit. It melted as soon as it hit the ground, and it was just a little bit, but we were like, what is happening?
That's nice though, because then you get to enjoy it and then it goes away, huh?
Yeah, it was just like the lightest dusting of snow. It was almost like it was raining really, but um we had nice weather, and then it got cold, and so I guess
Oh,
there's that storm in the north that's kind of affecting us a little bit here. So, but
okay.
how's your beautiful weather? Is it cold still or
Yeah,
no?
no, it's not cold, but I did hear, let's see, we had one day of rain last week, but I did hear we're supposed to get rain, I think on Saturday and Sunday, tomorrow and Sunday. I hope. So
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that that's the case.
Yeah.
So we'll see, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, yeah, in fact, let me see here what it says. Weather for our weather. Yep. Now it says Saturday, but not Sunday. And then it says next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday is supposed to rain. Now that's kind of far out, so you never know, but that would be nice,
Yeah.
if we got that.
Yeah, that
So
would be great.
yeah, we need it. We need it. Oh,
Always, I know. Always you need it.
I know. I felt like last winter we had a pretty good winter as far as the rain goes. It was really nice. We got quite a bit of rain. So I guess I was just hoping this winter would be the same way.
Yeah.
But oh well,
Yeah.
you know. So all right, well we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
All right. Okay, let's get started with common words. Draft, relative, face, fear, fur, trying, extra, begin, sweet, words, attend, approval, insurance, clear, become, sheet, whatever, dollars, o'clock, bills, settlement, miss, mention, local, earliest, fit, receiving, arrived, pleasant, willing, advertising, doesn't, health, isn't, fire, shown, history, known, seemed, basis, definite, longer, sign, music, proposition, act, blank, 7, program, parts, finished, strong, agree, touch, may, saying, post, follows, march, conditions, teachers, answering, fat, important, effort, signed, couldn't, machine, plans, teaching, Wednesday, wrong, power, allow, quote, story, moment, maybe, expected, 8, carefully, decide, 20, age, etc., women, spend, questions, anyone, university, fee, arrangement, realize, delivered. All right. Now I've got some words that focus on vowels. Here we go. Sun, sin, sun. Lit, let, lot. Tin, tan, ton. Pin, pan, pun. Leg, log, lag. Mutt, mitt, mat. Lick, lack, luck. Fill, fell, fall. Bell, ball, bill. Fur, far, fur. Sick, sack, suck. Tip, top, tap. Dog, dug, dig. Set, sat, sought. Laid, lid, led. Dawn, den, done. Hit, hat, hut. Pat, pet, pit, win, won, won, gil, gal, goal, nub, knob, nab, jet, jot, jut, del, dill, doll, hell, hole, hill, molt, melt, malt, less, loss, lass, clock, cluck, click, pip, pop, pup, slip, slop, slap. All right. Let's do some common phrases. Here we go. Shall recall, shall recollect, shall remember, shall understand, shall want, how shall, it shall, she shall, so I shall, so you shall, that he shall, that I shall, that you shall, there shall, they shall, this shall, we shall, what he shall, what I shall, what shall, what you shall, when he shall, when I shall, when you shall, where he shall, where I shall, where you shall, whether he shall, whether I shall, whether he shall, whether or not he shall, whether or not I shall, whether or not you shall, whether you shall, which he shall, which I shall, which you shall, who shall, you shall, she been, she believed, she believes, she can, she cannot, she could, she ever, she feels, she felt. All right, let's do some consonant compounds. This emphasizes on initial KL, initial PL, final RNT, final PD. All right, here we go. The clock begins, or let me say that again. The clock belongs to the clerk. Her closet door was closed. She clutched her clothes. We used the Kleenex to clean up. The clatter came from our classroom. Clyde's claim was clearly stated. Greg's plastic plates were on the placemats. Did you plan for plenty of food? The plot of plants was plowed under. She plugged the hole with the plunger. Did you see the play at the plaza? Where did you place the pleating paper? Is it apparent your parent is present? Her errant son has returned. Will is a tyrant. Joe popped the top and capped the bottle. She moped and sopped, or let me say that again. She mopped and sopped up the water. We supped and then we napped. Wayne ripped out the coupon and clipped it onto the refrigerator. And then I looked up supped, because I've never heard of that before, and it's slang for ate. So supped, S-U-P-P-E-D. All right, now I have some sentences here that focus on possessives. Here we go. Use anyone's report. Try Richard's copy. Where is Joe's car? Read Megan's story. Who is Kim's friend? Use a member's card. When is Kate's party? Buy at Jim's store. Buy a penny's worth. Get a child's size. Borrow Lee's bike. Get 10 cents worth. Buy Gail's puppy. Read Timmy's book. That's Mr. Jones's. Use a man's shirt. Leave Ryan's pen. Try men's shoes. Come to tomorrow's sale. The city's need is acute. The teacher's plan failed. It is the company's rule. The student's card is here. Read the judge's opinion. Use somebody else's pen. It's the president's idea. Ladies' coats are on sale. I need an expert's opinion. A member's card is green. Where is the men's room? We need somebody's help. Use the girls' entrance. Put the twins' bikes away. I believe the man's story. It's the state's order. Return Mr. Wilson's hammer. Ask for Missy's pass. Borrow Jake's car. Try Robert's way. Joe's car has a flat. Where is John's file? Buy $1 worth. It's the boys' gym. It is my wife's hat. Use the clerk's desk. Paint the men's room. Read the store's ad. Borrow Ian's hoe. A dog's bite is bad. It's a child's toy. Get a dime's worth. Leave Tom's report. Ask for ladies' shoes. Obey the judge's rules. Okay. Now we're going to do some sentences that focus on different numbers like times and dates. Here we go. Her plane is due at 12:30 p.m. The war ended in 45. We signed on 8/12/90. Be here at 2:30 p.m. The document is dated 7/1/09. Court resumes at 1:30 p.m. We built the house in 84. I was born in 86. Change it to 10/11/09. He arrived at 4:10. It starts at 7:00 a.m. sharp. We adjourned at 4:30 p.m. It's dated 7/19/01. The meeting begins at 1:45 p.m. Make the date 7/3/81. It was filed in 09. The exhibit is dated 6/2/11. He graduated in 2013. Mia Chris was born in 95. She is due at 4:20. Try at 6:00 a.m. Dated on 8/14/92. It is 7:30 p.m. or 7:30 a.m. I signed on 5/30/91. I graduated from Yale in 76. He won the 08 match. It happened in 2013. Be here promptly at 9:30 a.m. Start at 2:00 p.m. It starts at 5:30 p.m. The escrow opened on 12/29/11. Taxes are due every year on 4/15. The date is 4/3/09. We bought it in 96. Our 91 vacation was great. It was Christmas 89. Try for 8:00. The session convenes at 7:30 p.m. It says 10:00 a.m. The original is dated 2/1/13. It will be in 2015. I finished at 9:20 p.m. He quit on 10/11/13. My father retired in 2005. My birthday is 1/5/76. All right. I'm just dating this. All right, let's do some names and addresses. Here we go. Ready? Mrs. Sheila Brown, BROWN, Business and Office Instruction, Ashland State, Tech School, Route 6, Box 434, Ashland, Kentucky, 41001. Ms. Penny B. Connolly, CONNALLY, 26 Forest Street, Randolph, Vermont, 05060. L. Brunzel, BRUNSELL, Community High School, District 90 South, 1436 Norfolk, Downers Grove, Illinois, 60516. Ms. Elizabeth She Koppen, KOPPEN, 2335 Croton Place, San Leandro, California, 94570. Ms. Kathy L. DeCamp, DECAMP, International Ocean Marketing, P.O. Box 24, Hinsdale, Illinois, 60521. Mr. Peter K. Murphy, MURPHY, Consultations General, General of the USA, APO, New York, 09794. Ms. Nancy Lee Shanlin, SHANLIN, MS, and CRC, Building B, 4th floor, 2201 Hempstead Turnpike, East Meadow, New York, 11504. Ms. Bonnie M. Cahill, Kahill, 1115 Leesville Avenue, Avenel, New Jersey, 07001. Let's see, Ms. Melody A. Cole, Cole, Route 7, Gunby Road, Salisbury, Pennsylvania, 17551. All right. Let's do some medical words and then we'll get on to our literary. All right, here we go. Let's see. Yeah. Here we go. Ready? Medical treatment, bloodshot eyes, excessive sweating, hazardous medications, anti-inflammatory drugs, life-saving treatments, blood splatter, fainting spell, bullet wound, bone protruding, temporal region, bony cartilage, transverse process, cervical vertebra, tensile strength, side view, considerable mobility, continues downward, spool shaped, face downward, metacarpal bones, fluid secreted, fluoroscopic method, opaque fluids, immediate effect, skin surface, ensiform cartilage, acromion process, develops frequently, signifying usually, infected areas, healing period, surgical incision, inadequate fixation. All right. Now let's move on to literary. Actually, you know what? I always do this. I just took all my papers to move them down, and I did have one more for you. This is one of those that builds from each like few sentences. They add like a word. So I'm going to read this to you, okay? And then we'll be done. This is like different numbers in a sentence, and then each one is the same sentence but adds a word, okay? All right, here we go. Get my watch. When you have the number 146 divided by 2 multiplied by 39 minus 247 plus 143 divided by 3 plus the sum of 143, 543, 174, 324, 546, and 231, all subtracted from 3001, it comes to a rounded off figure. When you have the number 146 divided by 2 multiplied by 39 minus 247 plus 143 divided by 3 plus the sum of 243, 543, 174, 324, 546, and 231, all subtracted from 3001, it comes to a rounded off figure of, when you have the number 146 divided by 2 multiplied by 39 minus 247 plus 143 divided by 3 plus the sum of 243, 543, 174, 324, 546, and 231, all subtracted from 3001, it comes to a rounded off figure of 26. All right. Now we'll move into literary. Now our literary today is congressional records, and it's on annuities. So you're going to hear annuity, integrated, categorize, progressive, realm, reinstates, annuitant, consternation, injustice, conjuring, injunction, rectify, rectifying, Maryland, inequities, internal revenue, Senate, taxation. That's about it. Oh, U.S. District Court in Bethesda, Maryland. It's in Maryland. Bethesda. It's Bethesda. Bethesda. That's it. Bethesda. That's a different word. So you're going to hear that. U.S. District Court in Bethesda, Maryland. All right. So I'm going to start this at 180, but I'm going to work my way up to 200 on this one. And then we'll do another one and we'll start at 200, work our way to 225. Okay. All right. Here we go. Mr. Speaker, I am reintroducing H.R. 45, which is designed to remedy an obvious injustice, which is apparent in our tax laws. H.R. 45 reinstates the tax treatment of annuity contracts within the realm of integrated asset accounts. My bill is similar to H.R. 1439 and H.R. 1642 that I introduced last year and the year before. In 2011, basic guidelines on this matter were introduced. The Internal Revenue Service was asked to categorize this annuity for sales identification purposes. This variable annuity became known as the Progressive Investment Annuity. 2 years ago, the IRS issued a revenue ruling that completely reversed their definition of the Progressive Investment Annuity of 2011. That definition continues to place an undue burden on the progressive investment annuity market. This new ruling caused much consternation among both the House of Representatives and the Senate. The Senate has passed an amendment called the Tax Reduction Annuitant Act, which will defer the effective date of this new policy of the IRS until Congress has had an opportunity to study the matter. The IRS was sued over this problem in the U.S. District Court in Bethesda, Maryland. The judge ruled that the IRS acted without authority, and in view of this fact, the IRS was asked to rectify this error without the need for the issuance of an injunction. The IRS has continued to go after the progressive investment annuity account by conjuring up new methods of taxation. I believe that the actions of the IRS have resulted in severe inequities and have forced potential annuity participants into other forms of savings. I hope that the House Ways and Means Committee will consider this matter as soon as possible and that H.R. 45 can be acted upon. I don't know why I have such a hard time with that word. All right. Let's do our next one. It's like it's not that hard. Let's see here. I put my little tape on the one I wanted, but that's not. I put it on the closing argument, but not the one that I wanted for the. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Okay. And this is on balancing the budget. Now I'm going to start at 200. I'm going to work my way to 225 with this one. And you're going to hear legislators, mandate, diligent, adherence, fiscal, channel, priorities, legislators, resolutions, ratification, expenditures, crippling, double digit, deficient, critical, constitutional. That looks like it's about it, I think. I think I said Congress, demanded. All right. Oh, deficit. 99th Congress. All right, here we go. Mr. Speaker, my first piece of legislation was a proposed amendment to the Constitution to require a balanced federal budget. Obviously, this is in keeping with the voter priorities reflected not only in my district, but across the country. My bill was one of several that was introduced during the 98th Congress, which reflected a sense of national priorities. Now, as we are entering the 99th Congress, I sense an even stronger national mandate to limit the spending of the federal government and require more diligent adherence to fiscal responsibility by our national legislators. Today, I am introducing a proposed constitutional amendment to require a balanced federal budget and to assure that the budget will be balanced by putting a lid on federal spending, not by increasing the tax burden of the American people. My resolution would require that gradual elimination of deficit spending within the 30 months of ratification. My resolution would prohibit federal expenditures from exceeding revenues in subsequent years. As critical as the need to reduce excessive government spending and eliminate a deficit from 3 years ago, it was even more critical today. We are confronted with double-digit inflation and record high interest rates that are crippling the economy. The majority of Congress has professed support for a balanced budget. 35 states have already approved measures that call for a constitutional convention to draft a constitutional amendment to balance the federal budget. The people have demanded action, and this Congress can respond to their pleas. Our elected officials must exercise fiscal responsibility. I urge my colleagues to channel their energy and attention toward this goal in the opening days of the 99th Congress. All right, how are we doing on time? We have time for one more, I think. One more literary. Here we go. And this is going to be on Social Security recipients. Okay. And today, I'm going to read this today at 2:25. Okay, here we go. Mr. Speaker, I am introducing legislation to remove the outside limitation on earnings of Social Security recipients. Currently eligible recipients who are between the ages of 65 and 72 have their Social Security benefits reduced if they are earning an income greater than $38,000 per annum. Presently, the reduction rate is $1 for every $2 earned. When the individual becomes eligible for Social Security benefits at 65 years of age and continues to work, he or she is liable for an amount of tax that is equal to 50% of their income. I feel, Mr. Speaker, this is extremely unfair. First, if a recipient is denied the full benefits under the Social Security program because of outside employment, we are putting a Social Security recipient in the same category as a welfare recipient. Isn't Social Security a retirement program? Social Security requires forced payments to the government, which holds this money in trust for the recipient. Social Security recipients are not wards of the state. They are entitled to receive their benefits as a matter of right. Second, a limit on earnings hits those who need the money the most. To survive in today's economy, many retirees must work to supplement their income. This income in return is taxed by the Social Security Administration. Third, by punishing an individual who works, the restriction or limitation on the earnings discourages productivity. Every person should have the right to pursue an individual goal after the age of 65. If a person chooses to continue to be a productive member of the workforce after 65, one should not be penalized. Let it be known to all, Mr. Speaker, that I am earnestly awaiting the decision of the House Ways and Means Committee whether to give this bill prompt and adequate consideration. And that was at 2:25. All right. Would you like me to give you one more literary? Or move on? Yeah? Okay, I'll do that. Instead of moving on to jury charge, I'll do one more. Let's see. This is final argument. Okay, this is from a handwriting expert. Okay, expert testimony from a handwriting expert. All right, here we go. I'll read this. I'll start at 200 and work my way to 225. Actually, I'll just read it at 225. Here we go. My first comparison is with the signature Sheila Webster on the fingerprint card. The photograph has the signature Webster from the fingerprint card with the unidentified writing on the yellow document agreement. Notice the word whereas. The comparison is between the capital W's. The pickup stroke is between the capital W's, and that is low. That is, it hits the peak of the stroke. It is approximately 2/3 the height of the letter in the known handwriting and the questioned handwriting. The downstroke to the baseline is fairly straight with a retrace or somewhat overlapping. The stroke goes to the top of the letter in both known writing and question writing. The center of the capital letter W is open on the upstroke and the downstroke in both the known writing and the questioned writing. The second downstroke goes to a point in both writings, and the final stroke is a retrace up in the known writing, approximately the same height as the pickup stroke, and in the question writing only about halfway to the letter. The characteristics in the form of the letter W, in my opinion, show a distinct similarity in the known writing and the question writing. The top signature in the word Madison from the fingerprint card is compared with the word from the yellow paper, the agreement. The comparison is made on the small letter D. The body of the D has a long overhanging stroke. The body of the letter D is very narrow and long. It is very narrow and long, both in the known writing and the question writing. The final stroke of the body of the D rises to a point, leaving an opening in the body of the D. The staff of the D is straight and long. The staff of the D is approximately 4 to 5 times the length of the body in proportion in the known writing and the questioned writing. In this same photograph, the small letter S in Madison shows a characteristic of the initial stroke to the top of the letter W, a tip or hump on the top left-hand corner of the small letter O with a horizontal top to another sharp point in the upper right-hand corner of the small letter N. A similar characteristic is found in the question small letter n. There are variations of this that will be compared in other exhibits. Interesting. All right, let's do some jury charge. This is closing argument. I'll read this one at 200 and then I'll read the next one at 225, okay? And I won't give you a word list, so it's all new to you. Here we go. Thank you, Your Honor. I am sure you are all glad we have reached this stage in the case, and at least we are getting a start this afternoon. I want to thank you for your patience and for your attention during the course of this trial. I am sure counsel does as well. It has been a fairly long trial, and we have covered a lot of evidence and a lot of witnesses. I intend to go over some of the things that I think have the most important or are the most important to the prosecution's case. I intend to discuss the law and how it relates to the facts of this case. I won't cover everything because I feel a great deal of it is self-explanatory and not necessary for comment at this time. What I say and what Mrs. Delaney says during the course of this argument is not evidence. The evidence is what you heard from the witness stand and the exhibits that you are going to see. If your recollection is different from mine about what was said, go by your recollection and notes and not by mine. There certainly isn't going to be any attempt to mislead you as to what was said during the course of the case. You know it perhaps even better than I do. As I told you in the beginning, in the opening statement and opening arguments, a case like this is much like a puzzle. It is the pieces going together. Different witnesses can view the same thing, and all of them can see it a little bit differently and perceive different things, depending upon what they are concentrating on and what is important to them at the time. I think you can see, if you take the testimony of all of the witnesses and put it together, that you do get a fairly comprehensive picture of what happened, specifically on the night of November 28 and on the earlier occasion as well. This case is not really a whodunit type of case. It is more of a decision on your part as to what is exactly that Mr. Valentine has done, whether or not he is guilty of the crimes that we have charged him. Much of what was presented to you, I am sure, is uncontested by the defense as far as the facts, how they came out. A prime example of this, I think, is the robbery count 2 in the case of November 23rd of 2011. All right. Now, this next one, I'm going to read it to 25. And it's just titled Jury Instructions. All right, here we go. 225. I want to go over the instruction now as it pertains to direct and circumstantial evidence. The court will instruct you that direct evidence is evidence that directly proves a fact without the necessity of an inference, and which by itself, if found to be true, establishes that fact. Circumstantial evidence is evidence that, if found to be true, proves a fact from which an inference of the existence of another fact may be drawn. It is not necessary that facts be proved by direct evidence. They may be proved also by circumstantial evidence or by a combination of direct evidence and circumstantial evidence. Both direct evidence and circumstantial evidence are acceptable as means of proof. Neither is entitled to greater weight than the other. Most of you were questioned about your understanding of that principle and your agreement with it. I think you all felt that that was a rule that you could go with, or that you could follow the law if you were instructed that way. There is further instruction as to the circumstantial evidence, and it relates to the sufficiency of the circumstantial evidence as to how we prove our case. The court will instruct you that A, finding of guilt as to any crime may not be based on circumstantial evidence unless the proved circumstances are not only consistent with the theory that the defendant is guilty of the crime, but cannot be reconciled with any other rational conclusion. That's a requirement when we have only circumstantial evidence. Furthermore, each fact which is essential to complete a set of circumstances necessary to establish the defendant's guilt must be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. There are parts I am leaving out. Also, if the circumstantial evidence as to any particular count is susceptible of two reasonable interpretations, one of which points to the defendant's guilt and the other to his innocence, it is your duty to adopt that interpretation which points to the defendant's innocence and reject that interpretation which points to his guilt. So therefore, based on all of the evidence, there are two reasonable interpretations. One point to guilt and one will point to innocence. You must deal objectively and dispassionately with the evidence, and keep in mind that guilt must be established beyond all reasonable doubt. Okay, I'm going to give you one more. All right, and these are closing arguments. Again, but different. Here we go. I'm going to read this at 225 again, okay? Here we go. Your Honor, Mr. Phillips, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I am very anxious to argue my case. I think I even tried to start arguing in my opening statements. It has been a long time now since we had the opening statements. A lot of evidence has been presented to you since that time, and we are now finally back together again where we can talk about what the facts are of this case. I have only a few minutes until the lunch break, and I am not going to try to make my whole presentation in 10 minutes. If you will remember my opening statement, I identified 4 areas that I felt were going to be very important in this trial. I urged you to pay close attention to all of the 4 areas, particularly when the testimony came in on those subjects, because I felt that they were the keys to solving the particular case. Now, it has been described as a jigsaw puzzle, and I think that it is probably a good and apt description of what we have here in a lawsuit of this magnitude, where there are so many witnesses, so much evidence, so many things happening, and where you are trying to fit all of the pieces together coherently to make some sense out of it. The 4 that I identified, number 1 was there a person with a gun standing behind James, assisting him in taking the keys from Sherman? Number 2, did James and Purdy draw their weapons before seeing the shotgun on Burrell's lap? Number 3, did Virgil effectively communicate to James that he was a police officer when he came running up behind him? And number 4, did James surrender to the police before he could have reasonably seen that there were police cars or policemen at the scene? The answer to each of these issues is no. There is not only simply a reasonable doubt as to their truth, but I think the evidence proves that it is very satisfactory from looking at all of the evidence that each of these answers is in the negative, that these things did not happen. I want to go over them one by one, starting with the incident at the drive-in theater on the 1st of February with the taking of the keys for the motorcycle from Dwayne. Did James know there was a man standing behind him with a gun? There are a number of ways you can look at this. All right. Let's go ahead and start some Q&A. This is going to start with plaintiff. And I'll start at 180 and work my way to 200 with this one, okay? And the court does come in on this one, okay? All right, here we go. Mrs. Tyrone, what, please, is your relationship to Stacy Lee Burkhart? I am her grandmother. What is your husband's full name? His name is Charles Edward Tyrone. Now, ma'am, how long has Stacy Lee Burkhart lived with you? Well, let me think for just 1 minute. Counsel, excuse me, do you want to lay a foundation for that question? Very well, Your Honor. Mrs. Tyrone, do you recollect or remember? You can answer this yes or no. Do you recollect the circumstances under which Stacy Lee Burkhart came to live in your house? Yes, I do. Will you briefly relate the circumstances of Stacy coming to live in your home? Stacy's aunt, my daughter, would email me asking me if I knew of someone or if I could care for Stacy, as she was unable to care for her. She was 1.5 years old at that time. All right, would you give me the full name of your daughter, please? Yes, her name is Stephanie Comstock. Is that the lady who is out in the hallway now? Yes. Excuse me, you say she emailed you? Yes, I had several emails from her and also phone calls. Where was she living at the time? In Silver Springs, Maryland. Now, Mrs. Tyrone, did you see out in the hallway today a lady who at one time was the wife of Mr. Leland Tyrone? Yes. What is her name if you know? Kristen Burkhart. Would you please spell that? Kristinburkhart. Thank you. Do you understand? Strike that. What relationship is Kristen Burkhart to Stacy? She is Stacy's natural mother. All right, now do you remember approximately what date Stacy came to live with you? July the 6th, 2010. Pardon me? July the 6th, 2010. And who physically brought Stacy to your home on that date? My son did, Leland Tyrone, and my daughter. Are you referring to Stephanie Comstock? Yes. Do you have any recollection of the conversations of that date concerning Stacy being brought there? Well, they just mentioned that both of the children would be left there. The other little girl, Annie, was about 2.5 at that time. They said she was unable to care for both the children, especially Stacy, since she was still in diapers and taking a bottle. And so I agreed that I would watch her, thinking it would only be something temporary, because I just didn't expect the mother to leave both of her children. Now, a moment ago, you said she was unable to care. Who do you refer to when you say she? Kristen Burkhart. To help us on the record, Mrs. Tyrone, don't say he or she or they. Would you use a name each time, please? It will help our record. Yes. Now, from the time that Stacy was first brought to you, strike that. How long did Stacy then live in your home? Was it from the time that she was brought until the present moment? She has lived there about 12.5 years now. Have you received any financial support from Mr. Leland Tyrone? The first 3 years, Leland paid some, all say not more than $100 a month. The last money Leland gave me was in November 2013. He gave me $150. Was that cash or how was that paid? Cash. How do you remember that the last cash you received from Mr. Tyrone for Stacy was in 2013? Well, Mr. Tyrone hadn't been giving me much money anyway, so I just wrote it down, kept track of it. Do you recollect, ma'am, that Mr. Tyrone testified in Roxville that he gave you $860 to $1,000 each month? Yes, I know he said that. How do you recollect how long he said he provided $860 to $1,000 cash to you each month? Well, what was his statement if you remember? Well, the whole time Stacy has been with me, Mr. Tyrone said he gave me that much money up until sometime in March of this year, but it simply isn't true. Can you explain at all, ma'am, why you tell one version and he tells another? No, sir, I can't. Did Mr. Tyrone ever pay any money to you with a check instead of with cash? No, sir. To your knowledge, did Mr. Tyrone Leland ever give either cash or a check for Stacy to your husband, Charles Tyrone? No. Your Honor, I must ask, does your Honor have any of the court files or exhibits that were down in Silver Springs? There were certain calendars. The only thing I have is the juvenile court file in Ray, Stacy Lee Burkhart. Does your Honor have any information as to where the exhibits might be that were in Silver Springs? No, sir, I do not. All right, so let's switch transcripts. All right. Now this one, I'm going to start at 200. And I'll work my way to 225 with this one, okay? All right. This is going to be defense. Here we go. Isn't it a fact, Mr. Frederick, that you wrote out a document in your own handwriting from which that document in front of you was typed? Possibly, yes. Well, now, do you recall that you wrote out a document of which this is a copy of the computer that you wrote on in your handwriting and which has been verified by Linda Buckman? I didn't know it was going to be typed up on the computer. I wrote 3 or 4 of them. All right, you wrote 3 or 4 of them? Yes. When did you write them? Do you recall, sir? No, I don't. Do you recall whether it was before or after the date of this document? Well, to establish that, I would have to know what day Mr. Holcomb got out of jail on bail on the original charges. Counsel, do you want to stipulate that it was in April, on April 20? Just a moment. Yes, I will stipulate to that. So stipulated. All right, it is stipulated that Mr. Holcomb was released on bail sometime on April 20, 2004. Now, with that in mind, when did you write the handwritten copy, the handwritten original of the document in front of you? The same day or probably the next day. In other words, April 20 or April 21? Yes. What happened to the original handwritten copy, do you know? No. Did you take it? No. Where did you leave it if you remember? If I didn't leave it in the computer, I threw it in the trash. Well, yes. If I didn't, sometimes I would write notes and then take the computer and write the same note, copy the note onto the computer. Well, I am not talking about, we are confused here, Mr. Frederick, and I don't want to do this deliberately because we are trying to get at the truth. I have been referring to a handwritten copy, you see. Handwritten copy? Yes, in other words, in your own penmanship or by pencil. We will get to the question of the computer copy later on, but I mean your own penmanship. Oh, okay, I don't recall, no. Incidentally, did Scott give you any money? Yes, he did. How much money did he give you? He gave me $580. Is that your signature there? Wait a minute. Let me show it to Mr. Phillips first. I am sorry. When did he give you the money? He gave me the $290 on 2 different occasions. Do you recall what date he gave it to you? One date was when he had been down to Stanton, Louisiana to see Mr. Holcomb, and the next time was several days after that. Your Honor, may this be marked as defendant's next in order for identification only? Yes, it will be marked defendant C for identification. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Frederick, one more question and we will get on to some other matters. Do you recall whether or not whether you did or did not in your own penmanship write a document from which this computer copy was made? I might have, but I don't recall it. All right, now you mentioned when we were discussing it that you might have left one on your desk or threw it away. Is that correct? Yes. Now, I will show you, please again, Mr. Phillips, forgive me. I will show you, Mr. Frederick, a yellow piece of paper with some writing on it, and I ask you to look at that. Please examine it. Okay, did you write this? Yes, I did. We will take a recess at this time for 10 minutes. Proceed, counsel. Very well, Your Honor. Your Honor, I ask that the yellow sheet identified as being written by the witness, Frederick, be admitted for identification next in order for the defendants. It will be marked as Defendant's Exhibit D for identification. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Mr. Frederick, I notice that Defendant's Exhibit D for identification bears no date. Now, I ask you to attempt to remember for me, if you can, when you wrote that. I was trying to recall that while I was reading it, I wrote a lot of these things on different occasions. I don't recall what I had on my mind when I wrote each particular one. Was this written before Mr. Holcomb was released from jail on bail? Yes, it must have been. And after his arrest? Yes. Is this the truth? I would say all but the last two paragraphs. Is it your statement now, Mr. Phillips? Should we put a little mark on this as between ourselves before I ask the court to admit it, so that perhaps the witness should mark? All right, very well. I will give you a pencil, Mr. Frederick, a pen, and will you just put some kind of a mark around here so that the jury will know, if they ever see this thing, that you now say that these last two paragraphs aren't true? Okay, yes, sure. Okay, so that whole thing was at 225. And I would say even some of it was at 230, 235. I sped up a little bit. Okay, how are we doing on time? Okay, good. Trying to decide which transcript I want to use. Do some more of this this court case here that we started last week. Okay, and looks like plaintiff is questioning. No, defense. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to start right off at 225. Okay, and I will I'll even work my way up to 240, okay? All right, here we go. When you say somewhere else, do you mean somewhere else in the crime scene? You mean somewhere else in the country, somewhere else in the world? What do you mean? Somewhere between Los Angeles and Holleran Springs Road, you know. And so then that bullet then that was located there at the scene, are you then of the opinion that the bullet is somehow connected with the death of those two individuals? Yes, I am. Then is it your opinion that, strike that. Is it your opinion that one of those people who shot there in that area where the blood stains and the bullet was found? Not necessarily, no. Is it your opinion that the bullet then somehow dropped out of one of the bodies in that area as they were being drugged, as has been testified to earlier? That is a good possibility, yes. And is it your opinion, well, you say a good possibility, that implies you really don't have an opinion. Is that your opinion or not? No, I have no opinion. Well, it just depends. Okay, is it your opinion then that the stains on the rock that you believe is blood were somehow deposited on those rocks by the bodies as they were drugged in the sand? Yes. And having that opinion, you did nothing to verify that it was in fact A, blood, B, that the blood was human blood, and C, that the blood came from the two bodies. I'm limited on what I can and cannot do with the crime lab with our department. Okay, did you ever make such a request that they tried to make a determination of those three facts that I've just outlined for you? Those requests would have been made, let me rephrase that. Those requests are only made when a case is being prepared for trial. This case was 3 years later. We are in trial now. When did you make the request? I didn't make the request. Now I want to direct your attention to the circle at the top of Exhibit 26 that you've drawn, which indicates in your opinion that the Toyota, where it was located, which you've designated was technically outside the crime scene area. At some point in time, somebody directed your attention to the presence of a spent fired 380 shell casing. Is that correct? I'm not sure if someone directed me to that casing or not, but well, I believe Mr. Beasley testified that either he got it from you or he got it from some other deputy, but the thought was presented to him by you. Well, that is a good possibility, because the reason Randy collected those was because I asked him to. So at some point in time, you were aware that there was, in fact, a spent shell casing within the first hour and a half that I arrived. And you were also aware that there were 2 dead bodies lying some distance from the vehicle? Yes. And you, at that point in time, didn't have any other kind of information other than the bodies and the placards that you put out, I presume. Then did you direct that there be a similar search to the area that did encompass the bodies? Did you direct that a search that of that kind be done in the same area encompassing the Toyota? Yes, that was done, yes. Did you find anything? Nothing, again, to suggest that anything in and around the vehicle had anything to do with the crime scene. Did you find any clothing? I don't know. Did you find any footprints? Or go ahead. You may consult with your reports. I have no objection. No objection. Go ahead. Thank you. Yes, go ahead. Do you see anything in your report other than the officer's prints? No. I want to direct your attention to this white area between what appears to be a blacktop portion of the road. I believe that's a bridge, or not a bridge, but a spillway kind of a section, isn't it? I think so. I think it is too. Did you direct any kind of investigation to be done along the edges of Holler & Springs Road, say from the freeway overpass up to here, half a mile beyond this spillway area of the wash, half a mile beyond this point here? Is that what you said? I'm just picturing an area at random, but I'm saying here to half a mile beyond the crime scene area that you've designated. Did you search along the edges of the road? Yes, I walked that whole area roadway. Did you find anything that would somehow be related to, in your opinion, this case? No. Did you do that on both sides of the road? Yes. Did you find anything, bloodstains, bullets, clothing, anything like that, drag marks, anything of that nature? No. In going through this area that you have designated as the crime scene, did you find the presence of any other marks you would call drag marks in the area? No. Tire marks? No. Did someone at that point in time drive a vehicle into the general crime scene area as part of the investigation? I don't remember. There is a possibility when transporting arrives to remove the bodies, they may have gone down the road or this dirt area here, the wash area, a little ways. They could have only gone so far and then encountered the body. I vaguely remember that. Why would you say the vehicles could only go so far? Well, I don't think you would really want to take a chance with the undercarriage of your vehicle being struck by rocks and other debris. You could get there, yes, but it's probably safer to only go up to a certain point. To get to that area from that road, it would entail going over boulders and brush and any number of things to get to the area if you are driving a vehicle, wouldn't it? You would have to maneuver around them, but you'd have to go real slow. And if you were driving a vehicle in the area, wouldn't you expect that there would be tire tracks and indentations in the soil and deep indentations from perhaps where you hit a rock or tire slid or you turned to avoid going around one of those bushes, wouldn't you say? In some of the areas, yes. In some other areas, no. It was too hard. There, you're not going to find much as far as tire or shoe evidence. Did you look at all of the areas that you felt there might be such a thing to determine if there were any tire tracks or vehicle tracks? Yes, I did. Did you find any? No tire tracks, no shoe impressions out there. Did you determine why the Toyota was located in the location where you found it? Well, no. You testified that as you searched the crime scene area, as you described it to us, there were 3 people, yourself, the technician, and the photographer, and now apparently Detective Madrill was there too. Was it you that directed what photographs were to be taken? No, that pretty much was a given when you work with the forensic technicians. With our department, you work with these guys so much and they know what to do. They know what they should take. They know what they're supposed to do overall. They know they're supposed to get the mid-ranges and the close-ups. There are times when this is done and it is not done, but that's taken care of at a later time. So basically the photographs that we have, the determination as to what was taken was pretty much made up by the technician that was taking the pictures then. Is that correct? Pretty much what I wanted to. If I had to say that I really wanted him to take that, I would direct Randy to take a particular photograph. It would have been to try to photograph the drag marks. Was Mr. Bliss taking the photographs as well as collecting the evidence? Mr. Bliss? Wasn't his name Bliss? Beasley. Well, that's close. They both begin with a B. Was Mr. Beasley taking the photographs as well as collecting the evidence? Yes. So he was the one that pretty much would determine what the photograph was to be taken and how it was to be taken, the angle of the shot and that sort of thing. Is that correct? Randy and I both determined what shots are going to be taken as far as the angles, especially when it came to drag marks. He has more expertise than I do in trying to get the right angle to bring those drag marks up. So you relied on his expertise when it came to that? Yes, I did. And his expertise on the lighting, how to use the lighting, how to avoid shading and that sort of thing? Yes. Now, based upon your investigation at the crime scene and physical evidence, did you make a determination to see how the entry was made into that area where the bodies were located by whoever or whatever caused the death of those two individuals? Well, it was obvious to me that they had come in off of Holleran Springs Road and they went in a northwest direction to where the bodies were located. And is it your opinion that a vehicle was driven to that area? At the time, no, because I had no evidence of that. At a later time, yes. And is it your opinion that the bodies were in the vehicle, whatever vehicle you are referring to, at this point when transferred to that location? Yes, that's, I believe, based upon your examination of the crime scene and one of the many statements that Mr. Myers gave to you concerning this incident, isn't it? Yes. Let's return to the blood that you've described as blood in the sand. When you saw this area, did you measure the distance from where the stains were in both the sand and on the rocks to where the bodies were located when you found them? It's about, the question was, did you measure it from the blood to the bodies? Yes, yes. What was your measurement? I want to say it was about 20 feet. Did you record that in your report somewhere? 20 or 30 feet? Yes, I think it is with the measurements with the body and all of the placards together about 20 or 30 feet. Since you measured the distance to the bodies, that would tell me that you examined the geography between the bodies and the blood spots. Did you see any presence of any other stains that you believe to be blood in that 20 to 30 foot distance? No, I didn't. Any other stains on the rocks in this area or anything like that other than the two that we found? Yes, no. You were present when the coroner removed the bodies, I believe. Is that correct? Yes. Now, there is generally a procedure that occurs when the bodies are removed from the crime scene. Would you tell us what the procedure was in this instance? Well, the coroner will arrive. You lead the coroner into the crime scene, and he makes a visual examination of the bodies. The coroner will usually take pictures of the bodies, and the coroner will check for identification, and the coroner will check for injuries, trauma to the bodies at some time. After that is done, usually the coroner will roll the bodies to one side or the other and look for additional trauma. In this case, there were tattoos on the body, so the coroner located those. And while this was done, at times there's photographs that are being taken. In this case, they were taken by Randy Beasley, and then the bodies are placed in the body bags and removed. In this case, when the bodies were placed in the white body bags, the plastic, I believe, is that correct? Yes. Were the bodies then loaded onto a gurney and wheeled out of the area? Were they immediately placed in a vehicle or were they carried somewhere? I don't remember. Well, after the bodies were removed from the actual location there on the sand, where they were laying and somehow taken to the coroner's vehicle, did you then search the area from where the bodies laid to where the bodies were deposited into the coroner's vehicle for the possibility of any evidence that might have dropped from the bodies or anything of that nature? It's going to be inside the body bag. That's your opinion as an assumption that you've made? No, sir, it's whatever evidence you take. You move that body into the body bag and the body bag is zipped up. So any evidence that should happen to drop, say, from the body is going to be inside of the body bag. So you've never seen cases where there was evidence found outside the body bag, even though the body bag was zipped up when the body was moved? You've never seen a case like that? Well, when the bodies are moved, yeah, you look where they are at. Yeah, that necessarily doesn't mean it was dropped off. It could have already been, in this case, in the soil underneath the body. Well, how were the bodies removed from the sand and placed into the body bags? Normally, there's two guys that arrive with the transport. They put the gloves on, they pick up the bodies and physically put them inside of the body bag. Is that what happened in this case? Yes. Did you see that happen? Yes. And when that was done, they were put into those body bags. Where did the body bags go and the bodies go? They go to the transport vehicle. And where did they go in this case? In the transport vehicle. And was the vehicle right there? That I don't remember. Did you look then in the area of where the bodies had been laying after the bodies were removed? Yes. You found a pack of cigarettes? Camel, yes. Did you find any other physical evidence of any kind? No. The area where the bodies had laid appeared to be severely stained with kind of an area around the bodies. Is that correct? Yes. Did you retain any of that sand or any of the area where this staining was for the purposes of having it tested or anything of that nature? I don't think so, no. Back to the stain in the sand. Did you retain any of that material that you said was blood? Did you actually retain any of that material in the sand? I think there was a sample taken of that soil by Randy. And how deep did the stain go in the sand when you took that sample? Say between 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch, maybe not even that. Okay, by deep, I mean how far down in the sand. Okay, you're saying that from a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch down, the stain was into the sand. Is that correct? It wasn't a complete stain. The complete stain, more pronounced stain, is going to be at the top of the stain, and it goes down. You may find some pebbles and small rocks with some blood on it. Did you make a determination as to how deep the stain was? 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch? Are you just testifying of your recollection, or did you actually take measurements? No, I didn't take any measurements, just my approximation at looking at it. What was the circumference of the stain? I thought it was at least 1 inch and a 1/2 to 2 inches. Did you make any indentation or any indication about that? No. Did you take any measurements? There's a ruler that is placed down in the photographs. Mr. Bristol, when you say circumference, do you mean the distance around the outer edge or the diameter? I'm talking about the distance around the outer edge of the stain. Thank you. Showing you exhibit 44 with a ruler here and the stain. Are you able to, from that photograph, now determine the size of the stain for us to the best of your ability? Well, you have 4 different stains here, or should I say 4 separate stains, 1.5 inches, 2 inches. And is that the circumference? Approximately. Again, directing your attention to exhibit 44. Was the photograph taken before you took your sample or after you took your sample? Before. Would you take a marker or a pen or a red pen and indicate for us, please, where you took your sample from and when the sample had been removed? I could not do that. You don't know? No. You just directed that Mr. Beasley do so? Yes. Your Honor, that would be all the questions I have at this particular point. Okay, thank you. Mr. Abackerley? Yes, thank you, Your Honor. All right. So we'll do just one, we'll do some read back, 1-page read back. And I read that I started at 225 and I worked my way to 240 on that. Okay. All right. This is going to be plaintiff. And I'll read this first at 225 and then again at 200 and 180, okay? It's just Q&A. Here we go. Did he indicate to you that you should have some physical therapy like heat treatments or something? No, he didn't. Did he say that he wanted to see you again though? Yes, he did. When did he want to see you? In a few days? In a few days, yes. Do you happen to remember what day it was the next time you saw him? When I went to him, it was December the 7th, Monday, but I'm not sure of the other dates. Could it have been 4 days later? Could it have been December 11? It could have been. Do you remember that visit at all? Yes. Did you drive yourself to his office on December 11? Yes. Did you walk unassisted out to the car from your mobile home, or did your husband help you? He helped me. But he didn't come with you? No, he didn't. Did you walk unassisted from your car to the doctor's office on the 11th? Yes. Between December 7 and 11, during the week that you were home, were you able to get up and walk around and do some things for yourself? Very little. Did the belt you were given for your rib cage help you in any way? A little. Were you able to make yourself meals during that week? No, I wasn't. Were you able to stand in the kitchen and do anything? No, I wasn't. Where did you spend most of your time? In bed. Was the pain in your ribs better while you were lying down? Slightly. All right. Let's do that again at 200. It's funny, the 225 seems slow now that we just got done with 240. All right, here we go. Did he indicate to you that you should have some physical therapy like heat treatments or something? No, he didn't. Did he say that he wanted to see you again though? Yes, he did. When did he want to see you? In a few days? In a few days, yes. Do you happen to remember what day it was the next time you saw him? When I went to see him, it was December the 7th, Monday, but I'm not sure of the other dates. Could it have been 4 days later? Could it have been December 11? It could have been. Do you remember that visit at all? Yes. Did you drive yourself to his office on December 11? Yes. Did you walk unassisted out to the car from your mobile home, or did your husband help you? He helped me. But he didn't come with you? No, he didn't. Did you walk unassisted from your car to the doctor's office on the 11th? Yes. Between December 7 and 11, during the week that you were home, were you able to get up and walk around and do some things for yourself? Very little. Did the belt you were given for your rib cage help you in any way? A little. Were you able to make yourself meals during that week? No, I wasn't. Were you able to stand in the kitchen and do anything? No, I wasn't. Where did you spend most of your time? In bed. Was the pain in your ribs better while you were lying down? Slightly. Okay. Let's do this again at 180. Did he indicate to you that you should have some physical therapy like heat treatments or something? No, he didn't. Did he say that he wanted to see you again though? Yes, he did. When did he want to see you? In a few days? In a few days, yes. Do you happen to remember what day it was the next time you saw him? When I went to him, it was December the 7th, Monday, but I'm not sure of the other dates. Could it have been 4 days later? Could it have been December 11? It could have been. Do you remember that visit at all? Yes. Did you drive yourself to his office on December 11? Yes. Did you walk unassisted out to the car from your mobile home, or did your husband help you? He helped me. But he didn't come with you? No, he didn't. Did you walk unassisted from your car to the doctor's office on the 11th? Yes. Between December 7 and 11, during the week that you were at home, were you able to get up and walk around and do some things for yourself? Very little. Did the belt you were given for your rib cage help you in any way? A little. Were you able to make yourself meals during that week? No, I wasn't. Were you able to stand in the kitchen and do anything? No, I wasn't. Where did you spend most of your time? In bed. Was the pain in your ribs better while you were lying down? Slightly. All right. How was that?
Fine.
Good.
Find my spot.
Okay. Let me know when you find it.
Okay. Got it.
All right. You want to take the first cue?
Sure.
Okay.
Question. Did he indicate to you that you should have some physical therapy like heat treatments or something? Answer. No, he didn't.
Question. Did he say that he wanted to see you again though? Answer. Yes, he did.
Question. When did he want to see you? In a few days? Answer. In a few days. Yes.
Question. Do you happen to remember what day it was the next time you saw him? Answer. When I went to, now in the 200 segment, I said when I went to see him. And then in the 225 and the 180, it's supposed to be when I went to him. Okay, so if you're reading the 200, you're going to see when I went to see him. Okay, that was my bad. It was December the 7th, Monday, but I'm not sure of the other dates.
Question. Could it have been 4 days later? Could it have been December 11? Answer. It could have been.
Question. Do you remember that visit at all? Answer. Yes.
Question. Did you drive yourself to his office on December 11? Answer. Yes.
Question. Did you walk unassisted out to the car from your mobile home, or did your husband help you? Answer. He helped me.
Question. But he didn't come with you? Answer. No, he didn't.
Question. Did you walk unassisted from your car to the doctor's office on the 11th? Answer, yes.
Question. Is it between?
Yes.
Okay, between December 7 and 11, during the week that you were at home, were you able to get up and walk around and do some things for yourself? Answer, very little.
Question, did the belt you were given for your rib cage help you in any way? Answer, a little.
Question, were you able to make yourself meals during that week? Answer, no, I wasn't.
Good. Question, were you able to stand in the kitchen and do anything? Answer, no, I wasn't.
Question, where did you spend most of your time? Answer, in bed.
Question, was the pain in your ribs better while you were lying down? Answer, slightly. You want to do one? There's one more page of this. I could read this one at 2:40. We don't have to read it back.
Sure.
We'll do that. All right. We'll do one more take at 1:40. This is like the continuation of that, and it's just one page. Okay. All right. Here we go. How about your hip? No. No better when you were lying down than when you were standing up. Is that correct? Right. Let's get back to December 11. That would be your second visit to the doctor's office. Did you arrive about the same time as you did on December 7? They were always morning appointments. Did you see the doctor on December 11? No. When you went in on December 11, did you report to some nurse? Yes. What did she tell you with regard to what treatment would be rendered that day? She didn't tell me anything. I was to go sit down in the waiting room, which I did. Then what happened? Then they called me, and I believe it was Mrs. Mason that called me. Is Mrs. Mason a doctor? No, a nurse. Then what happened? They put me in a room and gave me therapy. Would you describe the therapy for me? Well, it was some sort of a lamp treatment. Heat lamp? I don't know if it's a heat lamp or an ultraviolet lamp. She would snap it on, and in a couple of minutes it went off, and she would leave me in the room and come back when the buzzer went off. Did you have any particular sensation in any part of your body from this lamp? Did it feel like heat? Yes. Where was the heat lamp positioned with regard to your body? Was it positioned over your hip? Ribs. Your ribs? Yes. How was that?
Okay. Good in the beginning. The beginning part was easy, but then when you started getting into like the ultraviolet something or other, I kind of flubbed up a little bit.
The heat lamp and ultraviolet lamp, yeah.
But the beginning was okay.
Good. Can
I just tell you, I had like a little meltdown yesterday. My husband's like, "Oh, you're about to break through, because this happens every time that you are about to break through to a new level." And I'm like, not this time though.
Oh.
But man, I had such a bad day yesterday writing wise. Like I just could not get anything, and I was so frustrated, and I was like, I kept getting up and like I would go do the dishes or do something and then come back, and it was just like terrible. And I'm like, I just had to let it out. My husband let me go. I was just like, just let me go for 5 minutes here, because I've been like trying to stay so positive, but sometimes it's just like I'm like, I want to be done. I want to be done.
You're so close.
And I'm like, I don't really think this, and I know words are powerful. I shouldn't even say it, but what if I got this far and I just can't do it? What if I just can't? He's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm like, well, 200 and 225 are really different, believe it or not. Just, I don't know. I was just freaking out.
Yeah, you've got this.
I just want it so much, and it's like when you have a bad day, it's like why don't my fingers cooperate? And then I try different things like, okay, I'm going to try just like not thinking at all. Like, I'm not even going to think. I'm just going to turn my brain off and let my fingers go and see if that helps. And then I try like, okay, now let's do something different. And nothing was working yesterday.
Yeah, and it's so much like a sport, you know. You have to think of even the people that do sports, like they have their bad days, and it's like, why? My body knows what to do, and it's so much like a sport, you know. It's because it's muscle memory. So you're just going to have those bad days, and you can't beat yourself up over it. You still practice because you're getting the practice in, but don't beat yourself.
I'm just like, I was saying, like, I don't know what else I can do. I don't know what I do. Finger drills. I'm doing theory review even, and that helps me. I'm doing, I mean, the only thing I probably could do more of is reading my notes more. I do read my notes, but like, I think I can do more of that. That seems to help. I mean, other than that, I don't know what else to do. I'm just like, it just takes time, you know? And I'm like, I want to be working, you know?
And I don't know if there's ever, and you could probably ask your aunt this too. I don't know if there's ever a day where you're like, okay, I'm writing today 225. If I remember when I passed my 225 test, I did not think that I passed it. Like, no way. I just felt like my fingers were all over. And then I transcribed it and it was like, oh, I passed it.
Really?
Yes. Like, I couldn't believe it. So I don't know if you ever like wake up and go, oh, okay, I've conquered 225, you know?
I almost feel like you'd have to conquer like 240 to feel like, or, you know, be writing at 240 to feel like, oh, I conquered 225. Like, you have to be a level above to feel like you've totally conquered it, you know? Because, that's the way you feel about past speeds, you know. It's like, oh, well, I've conquered that. Oh, it's because I've moved on to a higher speed.
Well, and that's like why when you go after you pass the RPR and you go, if you take this California state test, it's going to be at 200. So it's going to be, plus they don't usually read at 200. So it's going to seem really slow.
I've been on enough, I've heard enough because I've scoped and I scope to audio a lot. So I've heard enough and I've been on enough with my aunt to wonder too, like, people talk really fast these days. Like, they talk faster than 225 sometimes. But I know they take breaths and it's a little different. And
it's not like a continuous 5 minutes of talking at 240. Yeah. You know what I mean?
But I'm just like, I almost feel like even at 225, like, you're still going out into the world and you're like, I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say. It's like, are you ever really totally ready for everything? No, it's like,
yeah, no.
You know,
worst case scenario, you tell them to repeat what they said or slow down. But most of the time, if they are really fast talkers, it's almost like if you're in a car and you gas it, slam on the brakes, gas it, slam on the brakes. It's not like a continuous gas, you know what I mean? Going at that speed. They might talk fast, but then they're going to stop. They might just say like, well, what do you mean? You know, but then they're going to stop, you know, it's not like a continuous 5 or 10 minute take of, and if they do, and you're having a hard time, then you just tell them you need to slow down. And most of the time, somebody else in the room is going to agree with you, because if it's another attorney, you know, the witness needs to understand what they're saying. And if it's the witness, the attorneys are taking notes and they don't want them talking that. Somebody else is going to agree with you. I've never had any, you know what I mean? If I ever had to have somebody slow down or repeat it, I never had anybody get upset. Like, what do you know, because it was valid.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I just feel like some of these attorneys though, like the newer ones, like they don't think about the fact that you're trying to make a record and there needs to be like order and
Yeah.
people need to speak slowly and, you know, like
You have to tell them that, like, look,
yeah,
I have to get this on the record. Like, I remember one time I had a deposition and the witness had a really, really deep accent. And it wasn't even that he didn't really talk that fast, but I could not understand. It was like a Middle Eastern accent. I had such a hard time. And I felt bad because I kept saying, can you repeat that? And I thought maybe the attorneys were getting mad. And then then finally the other attorney was like, maybe I'm having a hard time understanding and maybe we should get an interpreter. I mean, his accent was so thick. And so then I felt like, okay, I'm not the only one here that was having a hard time. And I was so thankful that, you have to get it on the record. So you can't worry about what they're thinking, but most of the time they're thinking what you're thinking.
Yeah. And not only that, if you don't say anything, they might think, well, I didn't hear that, but she obviously got it because she's over there writing and not saying anything. Mm-hmm. I'll just read it later.
That's right.
That's so right. It's like, they might just assume that you have like some special ability, like to understand this person.
That's right.
And
or what about if they ask you to read it back and you didn't get it? You better get it,
Yeah. And a lot of times I just think about the fact that attorneys are listening in a totally different way than court reporters are. You're verbatim, they're kind of getting the context and they're understanding like the meaning of what they're saying, right. Versus you having to get every word.
Yeah. They're already thinking about, depending on what the witness says, they're thinking about what their next question is going to be. They're not thinking about every word. So yeah, I've never had anybody ever get irritated with me, ever.
Yeah. Attorneys are good about that for the most part. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's one or two jerks out there who get upset, but for the most part, no. But I was just thinking, like, because I sat back and one thing I did yesterday was I just sat back and I listened to what was it? 260. It was RMR material that I was listening to, and I just sat back and actually just listened to it without writing on my machine. And I was like, this is how fast people talk in real life. Like, this is not that crazy, or unheard of. So anyways, I was just thinking about that. I was just feeling so like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Like, this is too fast. But I know I can. I just, that's the most frustrating part is I know I can. So why can't I?
And you know what, Catherine, I would go ahead and book one of your tests, either the Q&A or the lit. Worst
really?
Scenario, if you don't pass it, at least you, like you did with the jury charge, you know what to expect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I should. I just have been waiting to feel like, I don't know, just like ready, like, oh, like that feeling like I'm definitely going to pass it. Cause like, if I took it right now, I would feel like I might pass it if I'm having a good day and everything goes right. I don't know that I would pass it. And that's how I felt the first time. Cause I didn't pass my first jury charge attempt. Mm-hmm. I attempted it before I was really ready, but I just kind of wanted to see.
Just to kind of get the jitters out,
Yeah, I think I might do that. I think that's a good idea.
And who cares if you don't pass it? Now then you know what to expect.
That's true. Yeah.
And
I just, I wish like I would wake up one morning and just like magically like, it's all working today. It just all came together and I'm writing perfectly at 220. And that's the other thing too that boggles my mind is like what a difference in my writing there is between like 180, 200 and then 225. Like, I'm pretty messy at 225 and I misstroke a lot, and I know that'll go away as I get more proficient, but
just remember, you're not taking a real-time test. This is if you can figure out your notes, what you wrote, that's all that matters.
I mean, is that okay? Like, I don't
That's
know what I'm
okay.
doing. Like,
That's okay. I guarantee you, everybody else is in the same boat, unless you're going for your real time test. You know what I mean?
right.
But
Which,
right now, you're focusing on your RPR, and you know what? If you write 225 and it might be sloppy, but you can read through your notes, that's all that matters.
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I need to get better about letting go of what just happened a millisecond ago,
Mm-hmm.
just like you said something last week that really hit me because I asked you a question and about when you hear a word and you've never written it before and you hesitate and you're like, it's because you're thinking about real time probably. And I don't think that I'm doing that, but I realize like I am doing that. I am thinking about real time and I need to like not do that. So I need to, that's something I need to work on is just staying on like focused on the speaker and that's it and not
That's right.
thinking about how it's coming up on my screen. Like I literally need to think like let it go. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be able to read it. I'm
That's
going
right.
to be able to read it,
That's right.
but,
That's right. Because
so when
once
you
upon
said
a
that,
time, in the, even when I first got out of school, real time really wasn't a thing yet. It was just starting to hit. And we wrote on, we didn't have, dictionaries and software. When I first started, we wrote everything on paper notes and had to take those home and transcribe them. That was in 94. And I mean, there wasn't one thing that came up because we didn't have software. And then shortly after it came out, and then we started, you know, building our dictionary and doing that. But it just wasn't. So I think that sometimes real time is amazing. Thank God we have it. But I also think it plays with our mind, like every little word isn't coming up. It's like, no, that once upon a time, there weren't any words that came up. You relied on your steno,
right.
you know?
I bet you that's why a lot of people are taking longer to get out of
That's it.
school.
I've read articles in the NCRA magazine that say that. That's
Because
why.
even when you don't think you're thinking about it,
Mhm.
you are. Like
Mhm.
I realized after you said that, I'm like, yeah, on some level, I am thinking about it.
Mhm.
So you
And I
just gotta be
guarantee you, I've talked to my girlfriend about this a lot too, that does depots, and she's like, Jill, have you ever had an attorney that cares if something doesn't, if something, they're not sitting there staring at the screen going, oh, that word didn't come up. That's, you know what I mean? They don't care. They do not, if something doesn't, if you have a non-translate, they're not making a big deal about it. They do not care. As long as it's
yeah,
cleaned up when you hand them when you give them their transcript and it's, everything is transcribed, that's all they care about.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, I need to turn that off. Um, which is going to be hard because I didn't even realize it was on, like the thought. So I just need to, I don't know what, like maybe there's some kind of a drill that I can do or some kind of an exercise I can do to not do that. Tammy used to do a drill that was actually really good. She used to read stuff backwards.
oh,
Um, I don't know how she got, maybe she put them together herself, but that way, like you literally could not think about anything because nothing made sense. It was totally like random words, just a string of words.
so like she would read a paragraph, and instead of Mr. President, I recently introduced SB 134, the air traffic controllers, she would say controllers traffic air the 134 SB introduced recently. I'm
Yes.
President Mr. Oh
Yes.
yeah, that's a good one. I can do
I
that.
used I used I used to like that one. She used to do that. I thought maybe that would help because um it kind of makes you turn off
Yes.
any processing that you're doing, you're totally phonetically just writing everything you hear, and not thinking about real time, because it doesn't have to make sense, because it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Well, it's kind of like that Q&A drill that I have where each question is completely different. Like, what did you eat last night? I like ham and eggs. It doesn't make sense.
That's a good one. That's a good one for that too. For me, that kind of helps me turn off my brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you don't know what's coming your way. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. I'll find a paragraph and just read it. And then would she read it normal, like the normal way after that, or no? It was just.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. No.
That's good.
Yeah, she did all kinds of different things, but I remember that one. And then she did something similar to what you do, but she did it from it wasn't my favorite actually, but she would add, she called it a retaining drill. So she would add on a word, you kind of do but she would start from the very beginning. So she would go I went to the, and it would go on forever like that,
Yes.
That was kind of an interesting one, but anyways.
Yeah, that's the retaining drill. Okay. Yeah, I wrote some notes, so I'll definitely do that next week. Absolutely.
No.
All right. Well, thank you for that feedback. And yes, and just make that appointment and take that test. And even if you don't pass it, who cares? It gives you just the knowledge of what to expect.
Yeah. I'm going to sign off and sign up for my test right now.
Good.
That's what I'm going to do.
Good for you. You can do this. Don't let the negative, filter into your brain at all.
Yeah. Yeah. It's trying really hard. I'm gonna block it. I'm gonna block it.
Good.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks for letting me.
One more thing I was going to tell you. I've been reading this book. It's really good. It's called Badass You. Have you heard of it?
No. Badass You?
Badass You. I found it at Target and I just kind of flipped through and I was like, ooh, this looks good. And I've been reading it and it's so good. I found it at Target. So it just it's all about don't limit yourself, that self-doubt and all of that. And it's not very thick. It's, it's not a huge book. So it's pretty easy read, but it's good.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
I'll check it out.
Okay.
Badass You.
Badass You. Oh man.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's good. So, all right. Well, let me know. Let me know when your test is.
Okay, I will.
Or don't. I don't want to put pressure on you. If you do better without saying anything and just after the fact, hey, that's.
I'll tell you. I just won't tell anybody else. I won't tell my aunt or.
Okay. I'm the same way. Yeah. I don't like to publish things until it's over.
I wasn't going to tell anybody last time. I told you, but then I wasn't going to tell anyone in my family. And wouldn't you know it, the day before the test, something came up in my family and they needed my help the day of the test at the time I was taking it.
Oh.
And I felt like I had to tell them because it was important and I didn't want to just say no, so
yeah. You're like, I really can't do it.
I was like, I got to tell them. And so I told them, but it ended up working out. But this time I'm not going to tell anybody, but I'll tell you.
Okay. That sounds good. Let me know.
All right.
Okay. Have a great weekend.
All right. You too. Okay. See you next week.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Bye. Bye.